You're tuned in to the Foxboro BeatCast, a podcast for Patriots fans by Patriots fans. And here's your host, Kaleb McChesney.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Foxboro BeatCast. I'm your host, Kaleb McChesney. Alongside me, not as usual, the show first-timer, actually. We got my boy Travis Huth in the Row the Boat sweatshirt. That's important. We'll get to that in a little while. But, Travis, how are you on this fine Wednesday?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Obviously, some big news happened yesterday, Travis. I don't know if you heard it, but the Patriots went and poached another former Viking in wide receiver Stefon Diggs to add to the clan of Marcus Epps and what's his name? Tonga
And Josh Dobbs.
And Josh Dobbs. Yeah, there's a list. But the big news is obviously Stefon Diggs. So we'll lead off with that. We're going to get into the Viking stuff because I think what they've done is really interesting. Obviously, they have an interesting quarterback situation with J.J. McCarthy, the Aaron Rodgers saga. Where is all that headed? The Giants' new QB room. They've added a couple of polarizing players, to say the least. And then we have a fun segment at the end that we can't wait to get into. But Travis, this is your first time on the show. And I want you to have the chance to introduce yourself and to these fine people at home who will be watching, who will be interested in knowing who you are, what you're about. And so, I'll give you some brief time to do that.
So I'm Travis. I'm a Minnesota sports lifer. I even work at the Viking Stadium just as an usher.
So can we call you inside sources?
Yes, I am inside the building.
People inside the building have a feeling that J.J. McCarthy will win 6 MVPs. Yeah.
Yes. So I was there for your boy Stefon Diggs' biggest moment in his career. And there's not much to say about me. If it's Minnesota sports, I watch it. I don't really care what it is anymore. I just watch it.
No, for sure. And the people on this show know that I am a Phoenix Suns fan, so we won't go over what happened last year in the playoffs. But yeah, the Patriots and the Vikings, there's some history between us for sure. The Randy Moss stuff, Cordell Patterson, there was obviously the Matt Castle stuff.
Yep.
And then obviously the couple of guys we got here. Now Stefon Diggs is the newest chapter of that for sure. Let's just rip that Band-Aid off. The Patriots went and signed him. They hosted him for a visit last week. More of a get-to-know-you kind of thing, making sure his knee was healing, getting to know Diggs as a guy, as a player, see if he'll fit in with the culture and whatnot. And the Patriots obviously had a desperate need at wide receiver. Going into 2025 with Kayshon Boutte, Kendrick Bourne, Pop Douglas as your wide receiver room, I think you and I would agree that's not NFL worthy for sure. I know the Vikings have had some good wide receivers over the years, but that's certainly not a room that you want to hang your hat on for sure. So they do that. They check him out. Everything's come good. They leave the building without a deal. A week later, he comes back. It's a 3-year, $69 million deal. Very nice deal for sure. And $26 million guaranteed. I like that this is a contract with term because off the ACL tear, year 2 is almost always going to be better than year 1. So I like that we have him locked in and loaded. And I think this gives Drake May a very good weapon to grow with. We saw what he did for Josh Allen. He went to 4 Pro Bowls. He was on the All-Pro first team. I think it's a really solid move. People are going to say what they will about the contract. But you know Diggs better than I do, for sure. You caught the earliest parts of his career right before he got into his elite prime with Buffalo. What's your takes on Stefon Diggs? What do you think about the fit here?
I'm a fan of it. I think it was a move you had to make. So contract terms be damned. I think you had to get him in the building. He's a well-rounded receiver. He's got a versatile route tree. He'll run routes at all 3 levels. He's got good speed. We'll have to see what that's like. Turning 32 this year and coming off the torn ACL, but he's a smarter wide receiver than people give him credit for. He's crafty and he's athletic to go with it. I think the biggest concern with the signing is you're going to have to keep him happy through the rebuild. You've seen how he handled some of the losses in Buffalo, and it didn't seem like it was all that great in Houston last year. So you're going to have to win more than 4 games, I think, to keep Diggs happy longer beyond this year.
No, for sure. But everything that I saw, I don't know if it was Mike Reese who had it or one of the other Patriots insiders, but they basically said, yeah, the coaches in Houston raved about him. The coaches in Buffalo raved about him, even if things got sour with Josh Allen at the end there. And obviously in Minnesota, people loved him as well. Just had to make the move. And in the end, it worked out. You went and got the best wide receiver in the NFL, 1 pick ahead of us, you bastard. But yeah, he's not coming off of a great year. Obviously, the ACL tear in week 8. Only had 47 catches for 496 yards and 3 touchdowns. But before that, went to 4 straight Pro Bowls with the Bills. All Pro first team once, All Pro second team once. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons straight of 1,000 yards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6 years with 100+ catches, including 127 catches and 1,500 yards in 2020. That was kind of his breakout year with Josh Allen. I fully expect this to be kind of just giving Drake May somebody to go to, giving him an option that's going to make everybody's life easier across the field, whether that's May getting to throw the ball to somebody, whether it's, the running backs where they have to respect the pass game now, whether it's Kendrick Bourne, Booty, Polk, Baker, whoever ends up being that wide receiver too, maybe in the draft. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Just spreading out the coverage so they just can't, play back and let everything kind of come and go. I really like this move a lot. And people say what you will about the money. One thing, it's not my money. And number 2, you missed out on everybody else. You missed out on DK Metcalf because he didn't want to come here. You missed out on Cooper Kupp because he didn't want to come here. He was the best option. Like, would you rather have Stefon Diggs or Amari Cooper at this point?
Right.
I really like this move a lot.
No, I do too. And there's a lot of upside there. Like it's a deal. It's below half the money is guaranteed. So it's like, if it doesn't work out, I don't think it kills you long term. And I'm all for those experimental deals that you can get a guy in the building, see if it works. And if it's not working, you can move on within a year. Like, I think odds are he doesn't spend the full 3 years there.
Probably not.
Like, just with the way the money is there and all the question marks surrounding him, but all the positives, it's so worth it, I think, for him. Because he's so well rounded that you can line him up inside, you can line him up outside. Like, he's a versatile wide receiver that you can plug and play the rest of that wide receiver room around whatever you want to do with him specifically.
No, right. And I think this is a great situation for him as well, because one, you're working with a really talented young quarterback. It's very reminiscent of what Josh Allen was for Buffalo. Before Diggs got there, really raw, really talented. You just got to get it. You just got to get it down. You got to get him a weapon. And that's exactly what the Patriots did here. It's not going to be as good, obviously, because there's some mileage on Diggs. And then, of course, the ACL tear doesn't do much to help that, but he's on course to start week 1. It is 2025. Obviously, knee surgeries have come a long way from what they used to be. The fact that he tore it in week 8 and is on schedule for week 1 now is a testament to just how far we've come there. An ACL tear for wide receiver at 31 10 years ago was probably a career ender.
Right.
But yeah, really optimistic. In half a season, he got damn near 500 yards. He could still be 1,000-yard receiver if we could really get there. So his days of posting 1,500 yards are probably over, but he's gonna be the premier target in this offense, and I think that's exactly what he wants to be at this point.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, it's it says a lot. I think that at this age, in an age where you usually see guys ring chasing, he's going to the Patriots that are deep in a rebuild. Like, I think you're hoping that year 3 point that you're contending just for a playoff spot. Like, I think is kind of where you are in that. And so it's interesting that he chose them. I don't know. I don't know much about other confirmed interest that Diggs had this
I didn't
offseason.
hear anything.
Right.
So
Which
maybe
is
this
a
is a
little
settle option
concerning.
for him too.
Right. It might just be, yeah, that he didn't have a whole lot where else to go, but at the same time, he Diggs is a guy that plays the best with a chip on his shoulder. So if he feels disrespected by the league, I think that you're sometimes an angry Diggs is a good Diggs.
For sure, and especially in a room, I think him and Matt Collins in training camp is just going to be insane. They're going to get the most out of each other for sure. But there were a whole bunch of other signings that happened since we last recorded, as well as just recently. So we can just go down the list here. We went and got another Viking, the center Garrett Bradbury. This one probably is like, I know that you're like, oh, thank God he's out of here. But what can you tell us a little bit? You know what? You give us the vegetables first, and then give us the dessert. What's the struggles, and then where's something that this could work out if you know what I'm saying?
Right. So he's just undersized. He doesn't have enough anchor, enough strength to like even like come close to overcoming that. So like Bradbury's a guy I just saw get bullied a lot. And I'm not an O-line guy, like a guru. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but you can tell when a guy is getting bullied. You don't have to be a 300 IQ guy to know that. And that was kind of Bradbury. And some of it was he was a little bit on an island here. We've had terrible guard play on either side of him, and that does not help at all. Including guys that miss their assignments, like not just guys that get bullied, but guys that just straight up miss their assignments. And so I think that's I'm not I'm not hurting to see that go. Especially replacing him with Ryan Kelly, but I think but he is athletic. He can move. If you do a lot of like pulling stuff and that kind of stuff, like he's good at that stuff, which is more like what you would probably want from your guards rather than your center. But like there are things you can do with Bradbury that like he's good in certain situations. But I don't think you got a really good player if I'm being totally honest.
So when I looked at his PFF grades and whatnot, he was the 14th ranked run blocking center, which is excellent. Very good.
Right.
That's top out of like 60. Let's call it top quarter of the league in that regard. But obviously at damn near the bottom in pass protection. He's out here to try to fill the hole that is left from David Andrews being released with an injury designation, which probably means he's pretty close to retirement at this point. He obviously tore, I think it was his rotator cuff or something in the week 4 game against San Francisco. Guy had won 3 Super Bowls with us. He's an all-time Patriot. He's going to get that red jacket in Foxboro at one point down the line. But the Patriots kind of, they chased after, there was a center, what's his name? Dahlman, I think his name was, that ended up going somewhere else.
Was he the one that went to Chicago?
It might have been.
Yep.
Yeah. They were in on him. I think they were in on Ryan Kelly too, and you guys just got us there. So they ended up with the last option there. That was Garrett Bradbury. And like you said, your Vikings, their guard play struggled. Maybe Bradbury is a little bit better with a guy like Mike Onwenu to his right side. And then maybe if Cole Strange comes back healthy, he was a more than serviceable guard when he was healthy. Obviously, hell of a reach at pick 23 or whatever the hell it was. I remember when he was getting drafted, I said, who? And then some moron pulled up his draft profile and just read it.
Right.
Like, I didn't mean to do that. It was one of our 3-lettered named friends.
Oh, gotcha.
If you want to call them that.
Right.
So yeah, maybe that helps out. Two big guards playing alongside of him helps that case. Maybe you can hide him a little bit because it is 2025. You don't have a ton of nose guards just lining up right above the center. So that could easily be remedied as well. So just kind of a move for the Patriots at that position. Not the greatest move, not the best move, but it's a move that you kind of needed to make without a center of NFL starting capability on the roster.
Right. He's good enough that because he's got starting experience. A lot of when you're looking
88
for a
games he
journeyman,
started for you guys.
right? When you're looking for a journeyman guy, starting experience is like one of the best things, and you can still get somebody in the draft, and kind of have a competition there maybe, and but if you end up with him, like I wouldn't say it's the worst thing in the world because I've seen some bad some bad interior line play, and he was like before last year I would say he was horrible, but then last year like he looked almost mediocre, which is an upgrade.
No, right, he's trending the right way.
Yeah, he's trending up. And yeah, if you got some good guards, like cohesion makes a huge difference on the offensive line. When you have and so if you get three guys there on the interior that work well together, like that can cover up a lot.
I think our right side is set with the addition of Morgan Moses, who I think a lot of. I always think he's like criminally underpaid and underrated across the league. He was a damn good right tackle for the Jets last year. He was a damn good right tackle, I believe, for the Ravens before that. He's a really good player, and he's criminally underrated. He should be the starting right tackle. And then Mike Onwenu is like, I'm pretty sure he was voted to a Pro Bowl or on the All-Pro team as a right guard in the past, and he's a big fucking bully. So our right side is set. We just need to get that left side situated, especially at left tackle. But if you can set 4 out of 5 positions, and your left tackle is your question, it's a big question, but you can work with that, and we'll get into how we can fix that left tackle spot in the NFL draft pretty soon. But another Viking that we mentioned was Marcus Epps, the safety, coming from the Raiders. I didn't know too much about him. This broke when me and LCO did a impromptu live segment that didn't overly go well. I was very what's the word? I was very like confused and flustered. Flustered was the word I was looking for. I was very flustered with trying to keep up. But Marcus Epps, he's a safety for sure. He had an ACL tear too after just 3 games, but he'll be ready for training camp at 29 years old. Do you know anything about him?
So admittedly, like even though he's a former Viking, I don't know much because he didn't even make it out of not training camp, but he was a cut down day guy because we picked him in the 6th round. My claim to fame with him is that his family came and sat in my section for the preseason when you got a 6th round rookie safety and there's a group of 8 people all wearing his jersey, like something kind of stands out.
Yeah.
Because I was surprised because then he went to, I believe it was Philadelphia when he kind of actually, and then he got like a hold there. He got a job, like a starting job there, and then moved on to the Raiders. And he's just he seemed like a guy coming in that was one of those guys that just always found a way to be good enough to stick around at the next level. Like he never really stood out. But he's from what I've seen of him, like he's a fairly decent like free safety. Like you're probably not doing much else with him other than playing center field for you. But it sounds like the Patriots are in a spot where that's okay when you got guys like Jabril Peppers that you can kind of play anywhere.
No, for sure. Just trying to read up on whatever the hell I can on this guy. He started the entire season alongside CJ Gardner-Johnson in 2022. I believe that was the year that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Chiefs the first time around. Yeah. And then he went and got a $6 million per year deal from the Raiders, and he started all 17 games in his first year. Then the second year, popped his ACL. I'm not quite sure what kind of safety he is. Preferably, I would love for him to be that free safety, that center fielder in the back like Devin McCourty used to be, because we got 2 box safeties playing that spot with Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers. So you can imagine our down the field coverage wasn't awesome last year,
Right.
Especially with Kyle Duggar battling the ankle injury. And Kairos Tonga's kind of the same vein, bouncing around, trying to find a spot. But he's kind of that mold that we were talking about that is like Garrett Bradbury's worst nightmare, the nose tackle just lining up across from you.
Right. Yeah, no, and he's the next head of the bloodline too.
No, for sure. Yeah, he's about to earn that Uafala. He's gonna be that situational interior run stopper. He's gonna be a nice pair to Christian Barmore and the big money free agent Milton Williams. This was, I believe, the highest like new team contract of this free agency period. Would you believe me if I said that this is the highest paid New England Patriot by AAV of all time?
Honestly, it wouldn't shock me just because you have
because he
Bill.
beat Tom Brady by 1 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you have Bill, who is not known for wanting to spend money a lot. So that doesn't entirely surprise me. It surprises me that it ended up being maybe him that got that deal. But you can't overstate a good defensive line. I mean, Philly seems like they built their team from the defensive line out. They've got that awesome defensive line with rotational guys that keep everybody fresh.
Yeah, Milton Williams only played 50% of the snaps last year.
Right. But it doesn't matter because that unit, like what he did for that unit and what they all do for that unit, football is one of those sports where everything has like a ripple effect out. So when you have a crazy pass rush, you probably overspent on them, but everybody pretty much overspends on everybody in the draft or in the free agency a little bit. But it's a need. To me, I don't think you can have a good defense without a good defensive line.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to think about how he'll line up right next to Christian Barmore on that D line, assuming that Barmore comes back from the blood clots just fine. But that's a scary pass rush tandem for sure. And then they went and added 2 edge rushers in Harold Landry from the Titans, Mike Vrabel guy. Kind of had a petering off of production over the last couple of years. He's been hurt, but 9 sacks, I believe it was 8 sacks, 10 sacks, 12 and a half. Like he's a cleanup edge rusher for sure. And then a former first round pick in Kaleb Chason, who kind of showed why he was a first round pick with the Raiders. And you still got him at a pretty affordable contract. So that's always there. Anybody else you'd be super familiar with on this list?
We can talk about Josh Dobbs.
You can talk about we can talk about Josh Dobbs.
Well, just because you never know if you trade Joe Milton,
which I would love to do.
That kind of puts Dobbs as your backup guy, so you got to consider it. I mean, kind of memeing here, but kind of not. But you've got an extremely intelligent QB3. And he's athletic.
He's QB2 entering camp, to be honest with you.
True. Over Joe Milton, yeah, I suppose. Maybe you even give that treat that like a true battle and maybe try and see if you can make Joe Milton earn something that might even kind of artificially raise his trade demand a little bit.
That's what if we can't move him for a 3rd round pick before the draft, you hold on to him, you let him do all these flashy things in preseason and then trade him for a 3rd.
Right. Well, especially after cut down day, all kinds of moving happens. So that's definitely then probably the next point where you see that become a real headline. And I would do it. I mean, I'm a Josh Dobbs. I love the Dobbs mania here or the Dobbs sanity, I guess you would call it, in Minnesota. It was fun. It definitely cost us some draft position by winning some meaningless games. Him having his the whole story with him having the playbook fed to him pre-snap in his earpiece Like that's insane.
Yeah.
Like these guys spend months learning a playbook, and he was doing crap on the fly. And it's like when you have like positives like that from a backup quarterback and someone that he's been around the league, he can teach Drake May. There's probably nothing that he can't teach Drake May that you weren't gonna get with Jacoby Brissett there.
No, right. Who went and got like a $12 million contract with the Arizona Cardinals.
Good for him.
Yeah.
He
I've always
deserves the
liked
money.
Jacoby. I thought he got a bad rap here. Not bad rap, but I feel like fans just kind of underappreciated him a little bit. He started games here. He was important. He was critical to May's development. And he played hard. Like he was getting his ass kicked, and
Right.
he played hard.
There's something about a steady backup quarterback. Like the Vikings had Sean Hill for a number of years. Like he was, so this is like Teddy Bridgewater era, and even before Teddy, like he was our backup, and it was a calming thing to know you had a guy that you could trust. Just learn the playbook, handle it, an offense on the field, handle the huddle, like all that stuff. It might not be anything exceptional, like as far as talent wise, but as far as like a backup quarterback, you just want someone that's steady.
No, for sure. As far as other departures, we lost our kicker Joey Sly, so it looks like the Patriots are going to be drafting a kicker this year again for like the third time in 5 years. My only hope is that they actually check out like the tattoos on this guy before they go and make the pick. Just to make sure. And obviously Chad Ryland didn't cut it here. Went to Arizona and like had a renaissance of good kicking. So it looks like the Patriots will be in that market again. Okay, let me pull up my list again. Jonathan Jones and Dietrich Wise are gone. That's a big hit. But Jonathan Jones, you get in Carlton Davis, eases the pain a little bit. And then same thing with Dietrich Wise. You lose him, but then you go get Milton Williams, the premier defensive free agent of this class. You traded Devon Godchow for a 6th or 7th round pick. You brought back Austin Hooper, who I really like.
I've always been a Hooper fan ever since even in the I remember watching him in the Super Bowl, the 28-3 game, and it was like, this is just a good, steady tight end that no one ever talks about.
No, he logged 45 catches for 476 yards and 3 touchdowns in New England last year. He's got a good rapport going with Drake May. He's a great number 2 or, tight end 1B to Hunter Henry's tight end 1A. And he's got experience with both Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels. So, yeah, that don't hurt at all. Anybody else that's important? When you talk about Matt Collins with LCO, he's a big dude, 6'4", 221. He had his career year with Josh McDaniels, 57 catches for 690. He was great in Buffalo as well, with 5 touchdowns. I think he caught one of those last-second touchdowns against the Chiefs in the playoffs that just didn't happen to go their way.
That rings a bell.
We brought in Robert Spillane, who's already a fan favorite at linebacker. He looks like he plays with his hair on fire, and I can't wait to see him on the field.
I love that out of outside linebackers. Like the crazier they look like, they play, like the better. I like those guys to be chaotic and disruptive and that kind of stuff.
But kind of my final thoughts on this Patriots free agency class. They upgraded at every level on defense. They upgraded their defensive line with Milton Williams. They upgraded their linebacking core with Spillane. I thought we brought in somebody else, but my brain escapes me here. And then you got your secondary upgraded with Carlton Davis, who again people thought was an overpay, but he's going to be a pretty good corner too. Oh, Jack Gibbons was the other linebacker who spent time in Tennessee, who I really like as well. But you upgraded at every level there. You got yourself a real offensive tackle with Morgan Moses, and you got 2 NFL receivers. One who is at the bare minimum a wide receiver 2 in 2025, with Stefon Diggs and Matt Collins, who's a competitive, fiery, complementary piece to what you got going on. It provides some real fire under the ass of all the other receivers in the room. So overall, I give it a B. Not a B plus, A minus, because you missed out on the guys I really, really wanted. Like, you got to find a way to land DK Metcalf, dude, at that price. Again, maybe it was just a non-starter. There was no amount of money in the world that could get him here. Maybe there was no amount of money in the world that could get Ryan Kelly or what's his name, the other guy, Dahlman, in here. Maybe there's no way that we could have got Laramie Tunzel or Ronnie. Well, there's definitely no way we could have got Ronnie Stanley. But I think it was a really, really solid class, and it sets us up for a lot of flexibility in the draft as well.
Right. I don't think there's any bad signings. I think there's definitely some that, like, you look at the money and go, okay, but that's the price of kind of being a rebuilding team, is you're gonna have to overpay to get guys to jump on board. And as long as you're getting, like, you also look at like the Harold Landry contract, but it's like that's a Vrabel guy. You're getting guys in the building that want to be there. I think if you're a rebuilding team and guys are agreeing to come, I think like there's something real that they want to be a part of. Where some of these teams that are good, they just, I don't know. There's just something about it.
You don't have that same like feeling like you're a part of it.
Right. They're trying to jump on to something instead of being a part of something, I guess, is maybe what you get sometimes.
Yeah, instead of building
right.
You're not building the apartment, you're renting it out.
Right, exactly. So I like what they did. I would echo your sentiment. I think about a B is fine. They didn't do anything like amazing, but I think you got some right guys in there. And I see no reason the Patriots won't be a better team in 2025 than they were in 24.
No, for sure. It's going to be easy to cross the 4-win mark, especially with a successful, talented, smart head coach in Mike Vrabel, who I love. Just straight, I loved him when he was in Tennessee. He was very Belichick-like, but he was able to relate to his players a whole lot better than Bill. He's got that same kind of weird obsession with trying to find the edge in games, which I love. I wouldn't be shocked if this team doubles their win total. That's steep, going from 4 to 8, but when our schedule comes out, I'll show you. Like, look at our home schedule; it's so easy.
Right. And eight wins isn't even a 500 team anymore. So
no, right.
I don't think that's all that crazy.
Like, if you're in December and you're in the hunt, you're on that graphic that says in the hunt. That's a success to me.
Yes, exactly. Playing meaningful football longer into the season is only better for especially the development of those young guys. I think there is something that's lost when the games stop meaning anything anymore. And I know obviously none of them will tell you that they mean nothing, but
people checked out that last game against Buffalo that we won.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. I remember kind of watching the box score of that game. We're like, oh, the Patriots are finally going to win one now?
No, right. Like when I wanted them to win every game that they were in, even like in November, people were like, oh, let's tank. Let's get the better pick. Like I wanted them to beat the Cardinals, the Dolphins, the Chargers. But week 18, when all we had to do was lose to get the number 1 pick, where I was like, even, okay, fine, lose. they went and kicked ass. And then Gerard Mayo got fired after the win, inciting a bunch of conspiracies that I don't even want to entertain.
Right. Because if you would have got that number 1 pick, I mean, you would have had an amazing deal. You would have found somebody to get that pick. And now, I mean, you still might trade down from 4, but it's obviously not as lucrative. And it's not as lucrative. Like, I mean, when you're talking about
pick up an extra third to move back like a couple spots, which brings us to our next topic that we'll make quick because there's a long list of stuff we got to get to. The Patriots pick at 4. and there's a lot of talk going on that in the top 4 of that draft. I think more likely than not, Cam Ward is going to be the number 1 overall pick. Do we kind of agree there?
Yeah, I put Cam Ward a little bit above Shadur Sanders.
As much as I feel like Tennessee doesn't want to take Cam Ward, and that's why they're kind of shopping that number 1. Like, if you're shopping that number 1 overall pick, you really don't want that quarterback.
Right. If that's your guy, you don't even. I mean, you pick up the phone, but you're not you're not facilitating that yourself. You're letting people come to you.
Yeah, and the Titans are very much not doing that, but I think they're gonna take that quarterback. And then at 2 and 3 is where it gets interesting. The Browns are going to need a quarterback. Deshaun Watson is a terrible person, 1. Number 2, he's a terrible football player. And number 3, he's not going to be playing this year because he retore his Achilles. So they need a quarterback bad. The Giants, they have a new QB room with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. More likely than not, they won't take a quarterback, but Adam Schefter is not exactly shutting that down right now. So you have to give it a level of credence. And the Patriots are at 4, and there's 2 blue chip talents in this draft, I think, at positions of value. We can talk about Ashton Genty as a blue chip talent, but I'm not taking him at pick 4. I don't think anybody should take a running back in the top 5.
Especially like when you have Ramondre Stevenson, like that's not who I would focus on.
I don't know if Ramondre Stevenson will prevent me from taking a running back, but not at 4.
At 4, like no. Like if you're looking at 2nd round running backs and think it's neat enough, like absolutely. But
if you tell me that Ashton Genty is LaDainian Tomlinson, I might take it more seriously, but I don't know. I don't know that. So more often than not, I'm leaning no. But there's Abdul Carter, the edge rusher, and Travis Hunter, the DB wide receiver, obviously. I love Abdul Carter. I think he's going to be the first of those 2 guys off. I think that's pretty consensus. So that leaves us in a really peculiar situation. Travis Hunter is there at 4. Unless 2 like this. Okay. Do you think 2 quarterbacks are going in the top 3? That's I should have led with that.
Yeah.
I'm not as convinced. I think it's a 65-45. It is versus it isn't, or 35, 65-35. Yes, that's the math. 65-35. I think 60-40, 65-35. I think 2 quarterbacks will go, but I'm not totally sold because Shadur Sanders doesn't pop off the page, if you know what I mean.
No, I've never been amazed by him either as far as an NFL prospect goes. Like he was fun in college. He did all that, but we've seen a ton of fun quarterbacks in college do nothing in the NFL. I worry he looks a little slender to me. Like I worry a little bit about him taking those NFL hits.
And he was running for his life at Colorado. The offensive line was horrible.
Yeah, right. And if he goes to New York, well, he's going to be doing the same thing with the Giants.
I don't know how Cleveland's trenches are nowadays, but I can't imagine they're that much better.
Right. Well, especially though they had a couple Hall of Famers there at one point, and one of them retired. The other one was because Joe Bitonio, is that his name? He was there for a while.
God, I don't even know if he's playing anymore. That's a good pull.
Right. But those were Bitonio. 2 amazing.
He's still there.
He's still there? No way.
Yeah, he's 33 years old, still playing.
Wow.
He's a guard.
Guard, right, yeah.
He was a Pro Bowler last year. How stupid are we?
That's amazing.
But
that's the thing about offensive linemen is that if you don't hear their name much, that means they're doing their job.
No, for sure. It's just weird. It's a weird spot for the Patriots at 4.
Right.
So I'm going to propose to you a couple things. Or just 2 options here. Travis Hunter is available at 4. Do you take him? No questions asked. Do you trade down?
So my thought
and like, what team is going to trade up to that spot?
Right. Because that's the thing. If there's somebody that really values Travis Hunter for his 2-way package and thinks that that's going to translate, like they're going to want that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I see it for the Patriots is you need a wide receiver much more than you need a corner.
Right.
So to me, you're probably drafting him as a wide receiver first, and I don't think I don't think there's as big of a drop off between the other guys, in the draft. At least, like, if you're gonna trade back a couple spots and then still take a wide receiver, like, I think I take that deal if that's where your head's at. Just because I think his two-way value is overstated in this draft. I think there's a reason why it's so freaking rare for guys to play both sides of the ball in the NFL. And I don't see him as the kind of guy that's that special that he's going to be the one to break. I think he's going to be a pretty dang good receiver or a pretty dang good corner if he decides, but I think it's going to be heavily favored one way. And I think that at 4, I think that's a little steep for me on Travis Hunter, just because I just don't think that part of his package is going to translate as well as some people do.
All right. So let's try this exercise. The Patriots, in this weird scenario, they don't have a trade down offer, and both Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter go in the top 3. So that's the doomsday scenario, right?
Right.
Cam Ward goes to Tennessee. The Browns say, "Screw that. We're not screwing around with Shedeur Sanders. We don't think he's very good." They go and take Travis Hunter. The Giants are like, "Well, we're not going to take him," and they take Abdul Carter. And the Patriots are at 4, and everybody else is like, "Screw you. We're not taking Shedeur at 4. We're not trading up for that." And you have to pick a player at 4.
Wow. That's tough, because then it's like, what you got.
I know who the Patriots will take in my gut, but like, who would you take?
That's tough. And some of it's like, I'm so I haven't spent a lot of time on the top 10 guys because I'm on the other spectrum of the first round.
Yeah. How's that feeling?
I'm talking about, like, trading out of the first round entirely. So you've got, so what? There's Will Campbell that's there. There's
the tackle with short arms.
Right, which is not like the end of, like, I've heard it's not the end of the world, but there's some data to some.
The concerns with him is, like, he's got like 32 and 5/8 or whatever it is, and an arm length that small hasn't been recorded in the NFL Combine since at least 1999.
Wow,
for a tackle.
Right, that's tough, because, like, that would be probably the next thing I would look at for the Patriots, is finding that left tackle.
But I think Ted McMillan is out of the conversation now with Diggs, right?
That's another thing where I think 4 is steep for him, but I would pick him. If you could move back a couple spots and take Ted McMillan, like, I think you've got a pretty damn good wide receiver room there at that point. When you're talking
That's the problem, though. Somebody has to be taken at 4.
right.
Like, because I don't think that there's a player worth taking at 4 in this draft. Like, in other drafts, you're like, oh, that's a stupid reach.
Right.
But if the Patriots get stuck, somebody has to be picked,
Right. No, it is tough. It's weird thinking like that you've got a top 5 pick that's not worth much. It sucks, because that's what you need when you're a rebuilding team, is you need those blue chip players. And even if your mind is at trading back regardless, Hunter and Carter are the 2 guys that somebody might actually trade up for. So, like, that's the worst scenario, is that if those guys are gone, you probably aren't trading back. I guess, gun to my head, I go Ted McMillan, just because I think he immediately, like, that takes your wide receiver room to another level.
No, for sure.
When you're talking about those rotation of guys that you have now being like a wide receiver 3 rotation, and you have 2 bona fide receivers, set.
Diggs, McMillan, and then Kendrick Bourne can be the wide receiver 3 he's kind of always been. Pop Douglas can be the slot receiver that he's meant to be. Jalen Polk, Javon Baker can develop on their own timeline.
Right. No, and so that's and it's just another weapon for Drake May. Like, I think the best thing that the Patriots could do in this draft is don't leave up anything to chance when it comes to your franchise quarterback. If you have a chance to make his job easier, I think you got to take the chance and do it.
Yeah, for sure. There were the other prospects that were kind of lauded out there. Mason Graham of Michigan, the D lineman. That's kind of out of the question now with the addition of Milton Williams. Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan, kind of out of the question now with the addition of Carlton Davis. So I think it really is between Ted McMillan and Will Campbell, and maybe Armand Membu if you're into that. I do believe from all of the reporting, all of the guys that I've listened to, everything that I've read, Will Campbell would be the pick at 4 in this doomsday scenario. Because at worst case scenario for Will Campbell, he's a really good guard. He's going to play guard for 10 years in the NFL.
Right.
And then you solidify 3 out of 5 spots. And maybe 4 if you can figure out who the hell is going to play center. If Garrett Bradbury can be really good at center, not really good. If he can be good, or
if you could get just like mediocre to like average out of Garrett Bradbury, that's a home run right there.
And you can solidify 4 out of 5 spots, and the tackle you gotta just kind of scheme around, and you gotta make it work. With McDaniels, it's a smart enough guy; he can figure that out. Other coaches have before. I was going to reference some names, but they escape me right now. But good offensive coordinators, good play callers, they can scheme it up. You can't. You can only do that for so long, but you can get away with it. As long as you have somebody who can play at an NFL level there. So I think Will Campbell probably should be the pick at 4 in that doomsday scenario. I'm not going to be mad if it's Ted McMillan. I really like him a lot. The concern with him is that he's a bit slow. His 40 time is a little closer to 4.5 than it is 4.4. But he's a rock solid player. I love watching him on film. But I do think Will Campbell would be the pick at 4. I think there's a 90% chance that would happen. And I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it either way.
I don't think anybody would be mad if you took a shot at a left tackle at 4 when you got Drake May there. Like it makes sense. It might not be like you said, he might not play left tackle. You might have to kick him inside, but he's still going to be a good offensive lineman somewhere on the line.
And he's a pro's pro. If you ever heard him talk,
right?
How he carries himself, he's an NFL player. You just got to figure out where he can play. I don't think it. Like I said, it's a hard question, but not really.
Right.
All right. So we went through our Patriots topics. Let's get into some NFL stuff quickly. I'm going to let you talk about your Minnesota Vikings here, because I think they had one of the more impressive free agency classes of this season. You brought back Harrison Smith, which I know you were pretty pumped to see as a kind of a player coach. You can start wherever you want. This is your team.
My biggest thing was getting Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. We had horrible interior offensive line play last year. It was bad with Ed Ingram, who his name is censored in the Vikings chat. If you don't censor his name, people will get upset because he was that bad. And then Blake Brandel was really rough in his first year at left guard too. So you brought in a center, you upgraded from Bradbury, and then Will Fries will play right guard over Ed Ingram, and that's like, and we've got our bookend tackles with Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill. It's like you said, we've got 4 out of 5 spots solidified now, and it's just how can we make that one spot not kill us? That was my biggest thing, was finally like making a real investment in the interior offensive line, because we have, even back to the previous regime with Rick Spielman. It was always a patchwork. There was never a real attempt to make a real lasting impact on the line there, and I think we finally made it.
Yeah, and then on the opposite side, he went and got Jonathan Allen.
Yeah, no, I was pumped. We were talking a couple of days before that broke when they were just talking about shopping him. The Commanders were just shopping him. I was like, I'd give my pick 24 up for Jonathan Allen. I went to if it costed us our 2026 first, I was out. But if we were just gonna flip that late first round pick into a bona fide starter on the defensive line, I was all for it. And then we just ended up getting him in free agency. Didn't have to give up anything other than cap space for him. So I was over the moon for that move. And then a more underrated move was getting Javon Hargrave, who will sit on the other side of Harrison Smith or Harrison Phillips. Sorry, there's two Harrisons on the defense now. So that defensive line, the interior of that side of the ball is also like interior on both sides of the ball was clearly the focus this offseason. I would have liked to have invested more in the cornerback room than Isaiah Rodgers. Like I know we brought back Byron Murphy and I like him. I was all for it, but I wanted another like Carlton Davis was actually a guy like I was like, let's spend some money on this guy. Or
no, he was always meant to be a Patriot, Travis.
Right.
There was no amount of money that could get him to not come here. It's a destination, damn it.
Right. But Isaiah Rodgers, I think like he's fine. He'll compared to what we had in Shaquille Griffin and Stephon Gilmore last year. I'll take a shot at Isaiah Rodgers. He just won a Super Bowl, so you got some experience there.
For sure, yeah.
But other than that, and like Rondale Moore was kind of a nice little interesting signing.
Him.
Yeah, you got him for cheap because he's coming off of an injury. It's one of those like I talked about earlier. I love those experimental pickups where you can get a guy that has shown that he can be something, and you get him for cheap. And you
don't forget this, Travis. You took a flyer on Jeff Okudah.
Right. Yeah. No, another good name that, like, from what I've been told, there have been a lot of scheme issues with him, like, because he pretty much was just a press man corner, like, coming out of Ohio
and he got
State.
hurt early on with the Lions.
Right. And so, like, to me, Okudah is a Brian Flores coded corner. So if he's gonna have a reclamation story,
another fold in the Patriots Vikings history with
yes, Brian Flores. I think it's here. I think we're the spot. If he's gonna have a redemption arc, it's here.
Could be the next Xavier Rhodes,
right? Who I loved. He was a frustrated corner to watch in his prime because he was a little handsy. He would get those pass interference calls, but I don't think the Vikings ever had a corner that could get under the wide receiver's skin the way Xavier Rhodes could. No relation to Cody Rhodes.
No, not at all. But overall, I think I give this Vikings free agency class an A-.
I'm over the moon with it. I was like maybe not A+, but I was like there
solid
wasn't a solid A. Other than like I would have liked a little more out of the corner room, but that is something that you can address in the draft. Because there are going to be some corners. Yeah, they might not even be alive by preseason.
I bet KJ Osborne as much as the next guy.
Oh, one of my lowest moments as a fan.
KJ Osborne sucked here, by the way. Another page in the Patriots Vikings history.
Yeah, there's so much now that we don't even have to make jokes about the Adam Thielen Bill Belichick beef. That because there's so many other
the one white receiver that Bill hated.
Right. But it's I loved it. I there wasn't a signing I thought was bad, and especially after looking at what we did last year, when we brought in Blake Cashman and Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, and all those guys had like the best year of their career here. They built a little bit more of that trust with me that I'm like, all right, we've addressed the same spots that I've been saying we need to address, and I trust their ability to assess talent at this point. Like, I think they've done enough, because last year was really the first year that it was their team.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, it was kind of like picking up the pieces from Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer. And last year was really the first year that this was Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi's team. And I thought they did a tremendous job with it.
No, for sure. That's why it's solid A- for me. Do you know what would have got it to an A+, Travis?
What's that?
Signing Aaron Rodgers. Or re-signing Aaron Donald. Or Sam Darnold, not Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald, oh boy.
Yeah, that would have been over the moon.
Well, Sam Darnold and Aaron Rodgers combined makes Aaron Donald.
Yeah. But we can talk about Aaron Rodgers a little bit here, can't we?
He loves it when people talk about him. So
yeah. We'll end the list. Listen, I've been an Aaron Rodgers guy for about as long as anybody else has. One of my favorite players of all time. I think he's in my top 5 quarterbacks of all time, at least top 6. 4 MVPs, ran that division for a very long time. Probably the most. He's kind of like, you ever watch Nikola Jokic play basketball and everything just looks so effortless?
yes.
Rodgers in his prime was that.
Yeah, he looked like he was just out there dicking around. And he, like, some of those Hail Mary throws that he had looked like schoolyard ball, and he just made it work.
Yeah, he was a wizard with the football. But now in 2025, after a tumultuous tenure with the Jets, to say the least, a messy exit with the Packers, he's been released from the Jets after just 2 years. Popped his Achilles year 1, didn't really have a shot. Year 2, he was better than people will give him credit for, but it still wasn't a good year. It was very toxic in that locker room. They went through coaching changes, offensive coordinator changes, and Rodgers has been given the boot. And the Vikings, they looked into it. They said, nope, not for us. The Giants looked into it, ended up saying, no, not for us. Went and signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Russell Wilson today, by the way, had his introductory press conference with the Giants. He says he expects to be the starter. We'll see how that goes. Just putting it all out there, putting his dick on the table and saying, yes, I am the starter. And now Aaron Rodgers, there's no other choice for him but the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he hasn't quite jumped onto that yet. Travis, we're outsiders looking in. What do we make of this Aaron Rodgers thing?
I mean, I don't I haven't heard it talked about, but I don't think that like we could rule out retirement at this point. Like, there's been kind of a vibe of Aaron Rodgers of like, when is he gonna get sick of football? Like, when's he gonna get sick of the practices?
If you told me that he would still be trying to play at 41, 42, I'd have said no way. Like, he's not that kind of guy.
Especially with his attitude at the end of the Packers era. Like, he looked like a guy that was kind of ready to be done with it. Lo and behold, he was just ready to be done with the Packers, which who could blame him?
The first offensive player they take in his tenure at being the quarterback was his replacement.
Right, exactly. They Brett Favre'd him, which is great because he gave Brett Favre crap for how Favre handled that situation, and I think Aaron Rodgers handled it pretty much the exact same way. If it wasn't for JJ McCarthy, I would have been like all over this. I would have loved to have Aaron Rodgers here and complete the Brett Favre arc and just see what we can get out of him. Although I think with the season Darnold had last year, if we didn't have JJ McCarthy, like, re-signing Darnold probably would have been the more likely option at that point. But I thought the Steelers made a lot of sense early in the process just because there's enough there where you could take that team. I mean, they just were in the playoffs with Russell
They're always
Wilson
like either one game in or just right outside of it.
Right. So if you're someone at Rodgers' age, like, there's enough there where you can convince yourself you can make a little run with that team. I
DK
don't
Metcalf, George Pickens.
right. To me, at this point, if it's not retirement, I don't know what else he's like mulling. Because I don't know what else. Because there is no other spot for him to go that he's going to be the bona fide guy on a team good enough to make the playoffs.
No, the Steelers are the spot at this point. I understand that he was really hoping for Minnesota. That was the best spot for a team that could have hypothetically been interested in a veteran quarterback to play. Which, by the way, have you signed a backup yet? A
Not
veteran guy?
yet. The last thing that came out is now we've confirmed talked to Joe Flacco and Ryan Tannehill.
Both solid options. I'd rather have Flacco. He's played more recently.
Well,
But
yeah, I'm like, and if he's just going to be on the bench, I'd rather have the guy that started and won a Super Bowl.
and Tannehill will cuss out your practice squad players. So
yeah,
that
won't go good in the Minnesota Nice.
But yeah, I'd love to see Rodgers keep playing, get a redemption arc. But I'm kind of done with the saga. Like, can we just get something done here?
Right. To me, like, the only other thing too it could be is like, because I remember when Brett Favre came here after his stint with the Jets, and he drug that on, and some of it was because he just didn't want to do training camp anymore. He didn't
Maybe
want to
that's
do
it.
the hot August days and pads and all that stuff, and so maybe Rodgers is just gonna drag it out as long as he can, so he can skip a couple weeks of practice, go down to Brazil and do some ayahuasca trips so he can
Do a
get some
darkness retreat.
insight. Yeah, that's his. That's how he studies tape.
See how Jamarcus Russell does.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's good. That's a shout, Jamarcus Russell.
But yeah, but we'll see. This is very Favre-esque, isn't it? Isn't it just ironic, poetic?
Yeah, especially the way he's handled it. It's just funny that he criticized Favre how he handled it, and to me, Rodgers has been like the exact same guy, and I don't even really blame him if it's the grind of it that he's just done with, but he still wants to play because football practices suck.
Yeah,
they're not fun.
No, I certainly don't miss my days of Pop Warner. But last thing before we get into our fun little segment, we gotta talk about another former Viking, Kirk Cousins and the Falcons.
I can't escape him.
This is just the pettiest situation from an NFL team I've ever seen. They were so unwilling to just eat the bullet on the mistake of paying Kirk Cousins that much money and accept that, hey, we got a guy here with Michael Penix. They were like, nope, you're our backup. We're going to eat this $10 million and you're going to be our backup. You're going to be our backup until however long. And now Kirk Cousins is like, okay, well, I'm not looking for any trades until after the draft, so nobody can Michael Penix me like you assholes did last year. So yeah, what do you make of this Kirk Cousins thing?
It was that Michael Penix
again,
pick.
just to preface this, me and you are two of the biggest Kirk Cousins people.
Right. As big as you can be on Kirk. Because even like though we're big Kirk people, we still kind of like half of it's making fun of him.
Right.
But I was surprised at that Penix pick. Like that shocked me. That was probably the first big shock of the draft last year. And it was also hilarious because part of the reason he went there, because like I believe he wasn't told. Like that was what you alluded to, that nobody told him that they were planning on taking a quarterback.
Arthur Blank didn't even know.
Wow. That's crazy. But I don't blame him. I mean, his arm still has something left to give. Whether his legs are gonna hold up, like that's the question at this point with that Achilles. But I still think he's got a good arm and he's got something to offer somebody. And I think he's a little more humble than Aaron Rodgers is. So like I don't think he would like he's a guy, if you had a young guy waiting in the wings, like he would coach him. I think he's that guy that you would but I didn't think he deserved to be done dirty like that. I was a Kirk guy, and I hope he gets another spot. Like, I'm always rooting for the redemption arcs, and I hope he gets a spot where he gets a chance to, because he was never really uh loved here. It was a very divided fan base when he was here. And it was very interesting to me too when the Falcons came here last year, and Sam Darnold played the game of his life. That was one that he absolutely popped off, and the crowd gave him a standing ovation, something that Darnold probably has not gotten since college. Like, that was a big emotional moment for Sam Darnold. And on the flip side of that, I would have loved to have been inside the head of Kirk Cousins, sitting there listening to that when he never got that from this fan base at all. And he provided stability at quarterback to a franchise that's like never has stability at quarterback. Like, it's sad that he's going to be underappreciated for that, because that's what I'll remember him for, is that he is a stable quarterback. He is definitely prone to some of the worst mistakes you could imagine. Like, not quite butt fumble, but like pretty damn close.
Yeah. I checked down on 4th and long.
yeah. Like, the stuff like that, and some of that stuff I think Zimmer beat into him. Like, Zimmer was never liked him. Zimmer did not want Kirk Cousins here. And I think by the time Kevin O'Connell got here, it was a little bit of trying to teach an old dog new tricks. And you saw him starting to change, and then his Achilles popped. You saw him start to play a little more loose.
Can you imagine a universe where he didn't pop his Achilles that year?
He was playing some of the best football of his
He started
career.
out slow, and then he turned it up.
Right. And there is something about Kirktober. He always turned it up in October. Kirktober is a real phenomenon. So if you need a bridge guy, at least get him in the building for October, because as he plays lights out. Maybe he should have been a pitcher.
No, for sure.
October.
Yeah, he would have taken that spot from Jeter. But that's your NFL segment. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's time to have some fun, Travis. Are you down to have some fun?
I'm always down to have some fun.
Alrighty, let's just get right to it, folks. Alrighty, friends, it is time for the Foxboro BeatCast. I'm your host, Kaleb Chesney. Alongside me, as usual, in our debut episode, it is Travis Huth. Travis, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm loving this. Row the boat, Sky Yuma, go Gophers.
Absolutely. As I go through and just try to change the the look of this podcast really quickly, Travis, I'd ask you to introduce yourself, but it feels like a little too late for that. You have so graciously adopted me. And see, as I changed it to the maroon, actually, is the gold a better look at this point? The gold might be a look. The gold might be. Let's just dip our toe in the water. Let's dip our toe in the water here.
Ooh, I don't know.
I like the maroon better.
Yeah.
It was a thought. It was a thought we attempted. But the maroon, if I could make like the letters maroon, that'd be sick.
Or if you did the letters gold with the maroon background.
Yeah. But we'll change it to the bubbles, the bubble theme here as well. You have so graciously adopted me and accepted me into the Minnesota Gophers fandom.
Well, we'll take everybody we can get.
Obviously, behind us is the scenes of the 2019 game against Penn State. Yeah, Travis, could you give us like a couple of minutes on Gopher football, what makes them interesting? Your favorite memories? Like, can we get a little bit of that? Can we get a little juice?
Yeah, well, I mean, the backdrop here, probably the most fun I ever had watching college football. The Gophers have not played a lot of serious, meaningful football in my time. There's a lot of 6-7 win seasons going to the Music City Bowl or the Pinstripe Bowl. But they're a team that they love to run the ball. They love to play defense. Like it's very Big Ten football. Like I don't think the Gophers ever really graduated from the classic Big Ten style football into like this modern age. They still at times operate like a team that's playing in the 1940s a little bit. They want to hand the ball off 50 times a game and they want to win like that. But there's a lot of personality. I mean, if you want history, I mean, it's distant history, but they are a historic school program wise. Um, but some of it too. PJ Fleck's a fun coach. He's a guy that really gets people bought into his system. I think you're either in or you're out on PJ Fleck. I don't think there's any way to be in the middle on him. You either love him or you hate him. Some people just think he talks like a politician, but I think he's perfect for college football, and I think he's brought a lot of stability to a program that needed it. They had not been a stable program for a long time. There was some drama too in between. Was it Tracy Clays was the head coach before him, and there was some drama about the players actually like protesting the school and stuff.
Good Lord.
Yeah, so it's Antoine Winfield Jr. actually almost transferred because of it. So
That's
we
crazy.
almost didn't have our Gophers legend. But he was on field for that game. I don't know if we win that game without Antoine Winfield Jr., that Penn State game.
Yeah, it was Tracy Clays
Yes.
in 2015-16. Before that, it was Jerry Kill.
Yeah, so Clays was a Jerry Kill guy. And Kill actually he deals with epilepsy and seizures. And so Kill wanted to retire, but he gave the university his letter of recommendation for Tracy Clays, so they honored it because Kill was a very well liked guy here. Like I think if it wasn't for that, he might still be coaching here, as long as he took it to the next level. I mean, there was still a little bit of, uh, we were just mediocre under him. We weren't nothing special, but he was likable. He was consistent. Um, but And I think that's the thing, like with the Gophers, is consistency is kind of the name of the PJ Fleck era.
No,
They've had a
they've been
couple of eight,
consistently in bowl games, consistently playing important games, playing great teams close. They
right,
hardly ever get blown out.
right. No, unless you're playing like the Ohio States of the world, like the Gophers aren't usually a blowout team, with a couple exceptions there. We won't talk about that Bowling Green game that happened a couple years ago. Um, but they're fun, and the big thing now is the quarterback that's coming in. Your second favorite Drake, Drake Lindsay.
Yeah, that's the pitch. That's the pitch for Patriots fans who need a college football team to follow. The University of Minnesota, you can just go from cheering one Drake on to the other.
Right, exactly. And he's interesting because he is not like the quarterbacks that have been known in the PJ Fleck era. When you look at, I mean, Tanner Morgan is the PJ Fleck quarterback still at
And
this
I
point.
comped him to Brian Hoyer before the three kids.
He was balding before his senior year. He already looked like a coach before he graduated. And Max Brosmer was not like he was bald, but he was
and
a
you
guy
people
that
need to listen as far as Max Brosmer, okay? He's a local legend.
he is a yeah.
University of New Hampshire.
Yep, he's a well-traveled man. And now he's on to the NFL most likely. Even if he
No,
doesn't get
sure.
drafted,
We can dive right into that. I had the list of stuff.
all right, yeah.
For these Gophers, they got some guys in the NFL draft all coming up. The quarterback Max Brosmer, the DB Justin Wally, the offensive tackle Ariante Ursery, the defensive lineman Jaw Joyner, the linebacker Cody Lindenberg, and wide receiver Daniel Jackson, all in this NFL draft.
Yeah, no, it's a deep draft class for the Gophers. I believe they set a record for players invited to the combine this year. Like I don't think we'd ever had 5 guys go to the combine. They didn't do a whole lot. Like Max Brosmer on his throwing day was probably the most notable uh, um, combine performance. Like other than that, I think Justin Wally did the 40. But other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of Gophers that actually like did combine testing. Um, so there wasn't a whole lot to go from there. Other than that, Max Brosmer had that beautiful deep ball that I was like, where was this all year?
You didn't
Because
see it
he
in the Duke's
seemed to
Mayo
miss
Bowl?
the mark on those balls.
You didn't see it in the Duke's Mayo Bowl?
I saw the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Okay, he had a couple good shots in the Mayo Bowl, but he just, I don't know. And some of it was there was an adjustment period from coming from New Hampshire to Minnesota and playing Big Ten college football compared to the FCS, I believe they call it.
Yeah.
Um, and
Then
but
they
you can
call our
tell he
conference
got
the Big East.
right. He got better as the year went on. Like I've always said, like if he had one more year of eligibility, like I really think he could have put himself like I don't really ever see him as a first round quarterback, but he could have solidified himself as like one of those like 3rd round, 4th round picks that like
Smart kids who can just pick up a playbook.
right. And that's him. And that's one of the things I was saying is like he's very Tanner Morgan like that he's a very average athlete, but he might be the smartest guy on the field.
No, for sure.
And you'll
And I
take
think
that in quarterback.
that's what PJ Fleck loved when he was recruiting him. You're gonna get a guy who can transition you from the mess that was 8th and Cali McManus.
Right.
And you have a guy who can just set the table. And honestly, I think he took this Gophers passing game to a level that we didn't quite see with Ethan, obviously. And I think it even elevated from the Morgan era, where Morgan was he was very steady. I want to give him all the credit in the world.
Right.
But I feel like Brosmer was just a tick better and could make those push throws that Morgan really struggled with.
Right. Yeah. No, Morgan was at his best. We were running a lot of RPO and a lot of that stuff, and he was just really good at making those reads. He made those reads like almost all the time.
Right.
And when you can make a good RPO read, generally that's going to be a positive play. Because he was an accurate quarterback too, but he didn't have quite the arm. Some of it was some of the talent. The Gophers have never really been known as a wide receiver school. And so like there's probably a little bit of a blame to go around on that one. But Brosmer definitely was better. The more diverse routes, like you saw him hitting those out routes and stuff too, like those 20-yard out plays or deep crossing patterns. Like he was way better at hitting those throws than Tanner Morgan ever was. And it's interesting too with Drake Lindsay coming in because he does not look like those guys at all.
No, he is
He's
a
6'5",
big
230.
dude.
Like he looks like a guy that just came out of the Ozarks because they recruited him out of Arkansas. So it's going to be an interesting transition there, I think, for the Gophers of having like a real quarterback that like checks all the boxes. Yeah, you still got to go out and prove it, but like we've never had an interesting quarterback prospect at the Gophers in my lifetime. They've all just been kind of guys that are there to hand the ball off, and I think that started to change with Tanner Morgan. I think Brosmer continued that trend, and I think we're going to see a more
we hit the runway, and now we're about to take off with Lindsay. Other guys, Ariante Ursary is a guy that Patriots could seriously look at in the second round.
Yeah, I think he's there at the top of the second. Like, if you don't want to take Will Campbell with that top 5 pick, with that 4 pick in that doomsday scenario, I think Ursary at the top of round 2 is like you could do far worse than that. The Gophers have been known. I wasn't thrilled with their offensive line play last year, but we have put out a couple good offensive linemen.
Yeah, no, for sure. Wally, I think, is a really good end of day 2, beginning of day 3 DB, real feisty.
Yeah, I've seen him mocked anywhere from like the end of like the second round to like 5th and 6th. So like it's still kind of a wide gap on him. But I love him. I want him here. I think he's a Brian Flores. Like he's a physical corner. But he also like he tracks the ball well. Like he's a guy that is gonna ball hawk a little bit and get you some picks. Um and and he ran a good 40. Like so he's a good athlete. He's got decent size. Like he's not you see a lot of these corners come out now that are just like 5'9", 5'10", and it's like how
Patriots
do
had a
you
couple of them.
right.
Marcus Jones and Jack Jones.
Right. And Wally isn't huge, but he's not small. You know, he's at least an average size corner that you can trust a little more to
I
go up
love how
against
he
the guy.
participates in the run game.
Right. Yeah. No, and I'm a big fan of that too. A corner that wants to be involved in that stuff is always a good thing.
Jaw Joyner, D lineman.
Jaw Joyner, he's a good edge rusher. He played edge, so he's more of a traditional like 4-3 defensive end. I think. But he's a high motor guy. Like I never saw that guy took a playoff. Like that's one of the best things I can say about him.
That's that PJ Fleck coaching.
Yep. No, PJ Fleck. If PJ Fleck can't get you to want to run through a wall, I don't know who can.
Well, again, half the people say he's awful. Half the people say he's the man.
Right.
Any thoughts on Cody Lindenberg or Daniel Jackson?
Lindenberg is kind of he's kind of a lunch pail guy. Like he screams like the outside linebacker version of Blake Cashman when he came out, which is not the Blake Cashman that we get now. Because I didn't think Cashman was going to be the player he is now in the pros. But he always participated on special teams. He's going to be one of those guys that if he doesn't quite cut it at his position, he's a guy that you know is willing to play those positions in special teams. And that's how a lot of those guys end up sticking around. When you're a guy that's willing to play special teams and you get to stick around and get coached at your real position by the side of it, that's how you develop. Like I think that separates those day 3 guys that stick around from the ones that don't are the ones that are willing to play special teams. And I think he's got the traits to put something together. I think he's a little small for the NFL. So I think that limits like his ceiling. But I see no reason why he's not going to be on a team somewhere for a number of years. He might not never be the guy, but he's good enough to have a job in the NFL.
How about Daniel Jackson?
Daniel Jackson, I love. Like we talk about the Gophers not being a wide receiver school, but he's a part of a group of guys the last few years that have been kind of changing that. But he's just a good. His hands are great. You hit him, you get it anywhere where he can catch it, and he'll catch it. Like I did not see reliable. That guy drop he's got good size. Like he's probably not the fastest athlete, the greatest athlete that you want as far as like agility and like getting open and stuff. Like I think his route running is going to have to get a little craftier to find ways to get open at the next level.
6 foot, 195.
Right.
59 catches for 831 yards and 8 touchdowns.
Profile which is crazy for a Gopher.
Kind of reminds me of Jacoby Myers.
Right. Yeah. No, that's probably a good comparison.
Of who I would love back in New England, by the way.
Right. And I just think that he's a reliable receiver. Like he's another guy that's gonna go day 3. Like you're starting to just take flyers on guys to get in the room. But one thing about PJ Fleck guys and the Gophers out of recently is they're all guys that are willing to work. Like I don't think like it's very much a program where you have to set like ego and stuff aside to be a part of that program. And I think that's what you're gonna get out of some of these day 3 Gopher guys is they're gonna prove to you that they want to stick around.
I think a lot of them will. But we have some spring practices going on. I believe they were yesterday.
Yesterday was the first like open spring practice that they had. They might have done a few before then.
But obviously there's a QB battle, quote unquote. We expect Drake Lindsay to win. But the other guy is Zach Pyron, Georgia Tech transfer. I kind of expect him to kind of hold the clipboard for Drake Lindsay, and we'll see what happens.
Right. He started 18 or 19 games for Georgia Tech over like a 3-year period. So he was kind of like a rotational starter there. Very much seems like one of those situations of like if you got 2 QBs, you got none that Georgia Tech was dealing with there. I didn't really find a whole lot about him, like as far as like his play style or anything, but all the talk has been Drake Lindsay, and as far as I can tell, he got the majority of first team reps yesterday. I know you can only take so much from spring ball, but the fact that they're giving it to him right out the gate, it screams to me that it's his job to lose.
He started 4 games, 995 yards and 5 touchdowns. Also kind of a dual threat. Has some solid gains on the ground, 271 and 6 touchdowns. From Pinson, Alabama, and when you look at him, yeah, he's an Alabama kid. He's got 2 years left of eligibility, 6'2", 220. But this guy profiles as a pretty good backup.
Right. And I think too, like we saw that you can't put all your quarterback eggs in one basket. Like we had to get somebody that was a fail safe for Drake Lindsay just in case he goes down, or there's always the chance the new guy implodes too. Like you just have to plan for those situations, because there was I believe it was 2 years ago we had no quarterbacks. Ethan Kaliakmanis transferred, and I believe we had another guy that there's another guy that transferred. So we had Cole Kramer come in, who spent his entire career as the Wildcat quarterback. That was all he ever did. And we had him start
There
a
was
bowl game.
Drew Viotto and Max Shikanjansky.
Oh yeah, So Shikanjansky, he's from Stillwater, Minnesota. But he's another guy that I think he's still there, but I think he's just like
I would look.
I think he's just he's just a guy. This is Drake Lindsay.
He's still in Minnesota,
right? But so because we had our Wildcat quarterback have to start a bowl game, I think PJ Fleck just like figured out that you've got to have a backup plan. You can't.
You want to know where Drew's at now?
Where's Drew at?
Eastern Michigan.
Oh wow.
Yep. Hasn't played a single snap. So how'd that transfer do for you, buddy?
Yeah, right.
He's also Canadian. He's from Sault Ste. Marie in Ontario.
Okay, so just north of the border.
Yep, he went back home, sort of.
Right.
All right. They have 3 offensive lineman transfers, and they all have a chance to start.
Yeah, we had some guys graduating this year, and I believe we also lost an offensive lineman in the transfer portal. The kid from Washington, I'm blanking on his name right now.
Brett Carroll or Tony Nelson?
Hold on, I have it here. But he is, I think that he probably slides in at where Ursary was. Like, I think he's kind of the shoe-in at left tackle at this point. No, that was the Kali Tafai.
Oh, got it. This the Simone guy.
Yeah, the other member of the bloodline.
Yes,
that's the other side of the family. The like I think he's the shoe-in to be the day one offensive tackle, the left tackle there. But that's going to be interesting with Drake Lindsay coming in, and now you have all this change at offensive line, and it wasn't the best offensive line. I've gotten used to watching some pretty good Gopher offensive line play over the last few years, so it's Like that's going to be a big thing. I always joke that a quarterback is like a boner in a whorehouse. It's only as good as your protection. Um, and that's like the big question mark I have. Like other than like the offensive line play, like I'm pretty comfortable with riding with Drake Lindsay with everything I've heard
We got
about him.
Marcellus Marshall at right tackle, who's a transfer from, I believe, Kent State. Dylan Ray is a senior transfer from West Virginia.
Okay.
And those are your 3 spots.
Right. And I believe Dylan Ray is going to be on the inside. Like I believe he
left
plays
guard.
one of the left guard, yeah. And I believe we just lost one of those guys. This is where I'll be honest, the offensive line names blend into me, like, and especially with Gophers when I'm used to them playing well. It's like I said, when they're playing well, you don't hear their names a lot. You don't remember their names. You only remember them when you hear the holding calls and the false starts and all that. So that's my big question mark. I think honestly, going into the Gopher season is how that offensive
how good
line
this
holds
line
up.
can be with the turnover.
Right.
Defensively, looking at this depth chart, I just had it up. Again, you gotta replace Justin Wally. And Coy Parrish is going to be your starting nickel. Jalen Bowden is a junior transfer to play corner. You also got Ryland Kelly, Samuel Madu, Jelante McMillan.
Right.
In that
Bowden,
secondary.
I believe, is kind of the guy that we brought in to be the Wally. I think he's the guy that we're looking at to be that number 1 corner this next year.
6'1", 170 at NC Central.
It's a little light, but you can get away with that in college. In college, like if you're 6'1", I'm fine if you're a little light. I don't care if as long as the Vikings aren't drafting him, I don't care if he's 170.
No, right. But yeah, those are a lot of the new. You obviously have the 2 running backs coming in, AJ Turner and Cam Davis, to play behind Darius Taylor, who I think was awesome last year.
Yeah, and they're the rotational guys. Like they're gonna get some snaps. Like the Gophers run the ball a lot, so even though Darius Taylor is gonna get the vast majority of those touches, and the Gophers just run the ball enough that those guys are gonna see, they're gonna get their chance with the ball in their hands.
And the last one that I'll go over is Javon Tracy, the wide receiver that we got from Miami, Ohio, coming off of a year of 57 catches, 818 yards, and 7 touchdowns.
Yeah, between him and Malachi Coleman from Nebraska, like I think those 2 guys are really gonna be like, you've got those guys with Elijah Spencer, and I think that's a really good 3 wide receiver group right there. They're your top 3 guys. So like that's what I mean though. The only question mark is the offensive line. Other than that, like Drake Lindsay is gonna have the tools that he needs to have success. And it's just most of it's just gonna come down to him. And that's how I'd have it. I don't want to leave anything up to question.
Absolutely. And we're a little bit away from the season start. The spring practices just began. So we don't have a ton of insight beyond that.
Yeah,
but
it's not a ton of people are barging down the doors of the Gophers practice facility to get the scoop. This isn't Ohio State where we're dominating the media headlines all year.
No, if we started a full-time Gopher podcast, we'd be jumping the charts.
We'd have to be, yeah. And to fill a Gopher podcast, we'd have to be talking about basketball, hockey.
I can't do that. I can
We'll
just
get the swim team in there.
The basketball team
Wrestling, we could talk some Gable Stevenson.
Yeah, we can bring Dubs on for that. He's a big wrestling guy.
There we go. Yeah.
But we'll be back for week 0. I want to bring it back. If you want to bring it back, I'll happily bring it back.
Oh, I'll bring it back. I'm always down to make people listen about Gopher football.
Absolutely, me too. And to think that this all came from a project I had to do in college, where I had to write a blog about a college football team that wasn't the University of New Hampshire, which I wouldn't have done anyway. ended up picking the Gophers. You've accepted me right in. I think I might have missed like 2 games over the last 2-3 years. So we're working
like I said, we'll take everybody we can get.
So Patriots Nation, you have a home.
Yes, we'll take you with open arms.
With arms wide open. But Travis, thanks for coming on, man. This was awesome.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
We'll bring you back whenever. You just let me know. You'll come back.
I'll be here.
Thank you all for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you follow the show on Facebook and Instagram, the Foxboro BeatCast, not the Gophercast. That doesn't exist. And we'll be back with Gophers week 0. I'll be back with Patriots probably before the draft. We'll have a couple mock drafts come out, and I'll come on and live stream the NFL draft. So we'll do that. We'll have some fun. Travis, once again, thanks for coming on. We will see you all pretty soon.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Foxboro BeatCast. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Instagram.